Well, hello again. This is Dr. Kessler in our next lecture. I recall a number of years ago, I used to go right from the office to the classroom, and there'd be a classroom full of eager faces like your own. And I would have worn black pants without thinking about it. And in those days, we had chalkboards. And I'd be up front with so much energy and talking to everybody and leaning back against the little ledge on the chalkboard. And by the end of the night, I'd get home and would be told, boy, your pants are full of chalk, because that's sort of how it used to be in the old days. Anyway, welcome to this lecture. I'm going to cover two major topics, both very important. First one is selecting a research topic, study topic. I call it study because students get carried away with the word research. They think they got to do something about outer space or neutron science or something. And, I keep saying, no, we're doing a study. We're studying a problem, trying to fix a problem. So it's research, but it's administrative research. It's down in a practical way. And this week in the course, you're going to have to submit an application with your topic, your proposed research topic, your question, and your sub-questions. And so I thought I would spend a few minutes just kind of going over sort of key aspects of that so that you'd be prepared to submit that application by the end of the week. So why is topic selection so important? Well, it's important because it decides how big your project is. It's just a massive project. It's going to take 200 researchers 4 years to get done. Maybe global warming, would be like that, or world hunger. Or is this a topic that if you were using it in a 16-week class, you could begin it and finish it over 16 weeks? And, so picking a topic is hugely important because, if you pick a big topic, you can't get it done. It's just impossible, especially having to collect data. So anyway, the study sets the scope. A question I have is how much time do you have? How much money do you have? Because if you're mailing out surveys, you got to buy stamps, and a lot of times you have to pay people to help you translate data if it's a big study. And then how many people do you have to help you? How many assistants? How many research assistants? So those are all good questions. Another key question is that the topic might be accepted by one instructor, like an MSA600. I might say, yeah, that's a good topic. And then you spend all semester working up a proposal, and you decide to take the 699 capstone instead of 698. And when you get to 699, your instructor says, that's just too difficult of a topic. I'm not going to approve that. And that happens as well. So that's why we're covering this topic. So the question is, what are we trying to accomplish? Are you trying to be the next Albert Einstein or Thomas Alva Edison or Steve Jobs? You're trying to impress others that you're a true scholar. You're trying to explore the mysteries of the universe. You want to be the next management guru and invent 1-minute management. You want to cure cancer. Is that what you're trying to accomplish? And the answer for me is I don't think so this semester. I think you want to get an MSA degree, a master's degree. So as you pick your topic, forget these other big issues here, and let's focus sort of a little narrow. So I think really what you're trying to do is you're trying to help your organization solve a problem, because you can get that done, or make a big business decision, a key decision, or decide if there's an idea that's feasible or not feasible. Those are more practical things. And so you really do need to keep this idea of scope in mind. Success or failure really begins with the research topic. In the theoretical, academic, scholarly world, success or failure is dependent on the advancement of knowledge and some fairly substantial ideas or concepts. But in administrative research, we're really not about sort of inventing things that are new. We're really trying to solve real-world problems in the existing organization. So we're unlikely to be using hypotheses. Those are things that we use in science to sort of come up with an idea. So anyway, remember in the prior lecture I talked about the process. And I had the organization top left corner, and then I had that box on the top labeled number 1. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about coming up with an idea and getting that idea approved. And that's what you have to do this week. And that's why we're having this conversation. So you really need to, this week, select a research focus. The problem has to be administrative in nature, none of the theoretical stuff. It can't be a problem that, like all organizations, why do manufacturing companies not use telecommuting? That's too big, right? You can't get a sample of all manufacturing companies. You just don't have time. So pick a single company, single organization. And the world's full of lots of administrative problems to research, right? Why are people leaving? Why have sales declined? Should we use cloud services? Why are so few employees not using telecommuting? And what's the feasibility of starting a business? That's a very hard project, but you can do that. Reasons that organization XYZ is having difficulty achieving its mission to cure cancer or whatever. Whether it's practical for happiness medical practice to adopt partial use of telemedicine capabilities, and on and on and on. And lots of ideas in organizations. You just have to come up with an idea. So students sometimes say, well, Dr. Kessler, I'm having a hard time with my topic. Get that all the time, right? And reasons that some students struggle is because they know that their organization under no circumstances is going to let them collect data. It's organizations don't like other organizations, know what they're up to, and so like I said, no. Also, if there's a problem in the organization doesn't want that problem to be known by outside people, so that's sometimes the case. Or maybe you're not employed right now, stay-at-home parent, between jobs, whatever. Or you just can't think of anything, which is pretty common. Or my organization will not support my doing research at work. We found in recent years that the military has clamped down on giving out surveys and on military installations, and you'd need permission from the installation to give out surveys, and most of them are saying no. So these are good reasons why you might not pick the topic exactly where you work. But regardless of your situation, if you can't find a topic at work like turnover or productivity, then think of another organization you're affiliated with. If you go to church. Churches have problems with attendance, volunteerism, declining number of members, not enough money. Everybody has not enough money problems, right? If you belong to a gym or fitness club, you can talk to the owner and say, look, what can I do a study for the club? They're losing money, they don't have enough attendance, they're having staffing problems, the machines are breaking down, whatever. Youth sports leagues, parents are overly involved, parents are not involved. Declining interest, we can't get people out, global warming. No, don't do global warming. Golf course where you play golf. I had a student do that at Fort Polk. Golf course was losing money, not getting enough play. He studied that. Corner grocery store. You can mom and pop stores, little businesses, maybe a restaurant or something. They don't have enough sales. They're going to have to close. The marketing is not effective. Their costs are too high. Anyway. So there's just tons of, you just got to find an organization, especially one that that'll help you. Now, I'm going to blow through these next two slides because we have a lot to cover today. But these are real topics that students have done for me in the past. I actually have copies of these studies. So adult care and other care facilities. Somebody did a program evaluation of managing combative residents while promoting employee safety at 2 Michigan nursing homes. An analysis of factors contributing to employee satisfaction at Country Living, AFC. Notice that all of them have organizational names in them. Improving audit readiness in the Army National Guard. Business continuity effectiveness in a small Michigan business. Lots of church studies. Evaluation of church membership at Royal Priesthood Ministries. Cost-effective database management system for Victorious Christian Mission. Volunteer engagement and motivation in Shiloh Church. And on and on. Clergy women. Analysis of women in ministry. Study for the practical church. Now, it has to be for a single church, not all churches. Factors that influence client retention in the WIC program. Feasibility study for a family medical practice. For feasibility study for providing in-house infusion chemotherapy services at Kalkaska Memorial Health Center. Now notice that's a feasibility study, but it's not for like starting a new business. It's for like starting a program that doesn't exist in an existing business. Anyway, you can go through these. I'll make these slides available, but there's lots of ideas. Police officer retention study for the Alma Police Department. Army operational security threats posed by use of social media. That's a big study, but it was done. program evaluation for the City of Dallas after-school program. Factors influence webinar training attendance at Deafblind Central, and so on and so forth. Right? So there's lots of good ideas. Now I wanted to quickly run through a subject that's discussed in our capstone guide for MSA 699, because you may encounter that, especially when I ask you to read it this semester. The capstone guide says there's lots of different kinds of studies, types of studies, typologies, right? And that's true. But mostly all of our students, since they're working on organizational problems, are working on program evaluations. Is the program, whatever it is, effective? Is it accomplishing its mission? Or is it efficient? Is it using enough resources? Those are two different kinds of studies. How do I design a new program? You just saw the one about chemotherapy infusion services, right? Feasibility study, cost-benefit analysis. Should we go with Google Office or Microsoft Office in the future? Do a cost-benefit analysis. Policy analysis. Don't get those very often. They're hard to do. Operations research. And then finally, in the guide, it talks about hypothesis testing, but you're going to hear me continue to discourage hypothesis testing because it requires pretty serious statistical knowledge and skills, and we really don't need it. You go to a boss at work and say, hey, I got a hypothesis I want to prove. The boss glazes over. But if you go in and you say, hey, I got a way to stop for people from resigning and staff turnover, you get their interest. So we're probably going to steer clear of hypotheses, right? So I always say to you, don't worry about the typology. Other instructors do it a little differently. I say, look at the problem you want to solve, and then we'll figure out whether it's a program evaluation or policy or whatever it is. Hypotheses or research questions. In my class, you're not going to use hypotheses. It just requires too much quantitative support. They're really best suited for a dissertation, a theoretical work, or PhD or hard science. We're going to use research questions because I can give out surveys and I can get responses back and I can objectively analyze those and then I can answer my research question, but I don't have to do a chi-square or a t-test or a multiple regression, right? Because I don't want to do those things. Why do I not want to do those things? Because they're more challenging and we haven't covered those subjects in our MSA program. So that's kind of key, right? So we're going to pick a practical problem, and then once we pick the practical problem, we're going to have to structure it correctly. Now, I like problems structured as questions. Why? Because at the end of the study, you should be able to use facts to give me the answers to the questions. So if at the beginning you start with a question, research wraps up nicely at the end if you produce the answer based on facts. And so this semester, I'm going to push you into a question structure for your research issue. And so when you see the proposal template, which I'll cover next week, you'll see that in Chapter 1, I'm going to ask you to structure your research problem as a question. So here's an example. This research examines the following problem. What factors are causing high manufacturing error rate at XYZ, and what actions can be taken to reduce it? And you're going to find with me that most questions are going to look like that. They're going to ask about the causes, and they're going to ask about solutions. And that's, what we do when we solve problems. What's causing the problem, and what do I got to do to stop it? What do I do to fix it? Another example, this research examines the following issue. And notice I always have that 6 words in front of my research question. You can't just throw a research question in somebody's face. In expository writing, you have to introduce it. This research examines the following issue. Are employees using work resources for personal use? And what sanctions should be imposed when they do so? So we're going to structure this primary question with the big problem, and we're going to ask kind of what's causing the problem, and then we're also going to ask what's kind of the solution set. Now, once you come up with your primary problem, I'm going to ask you to break it into pieces. And some students really struggle with this. Now, I don't understand why they struggle, but they do. They just have a hard time saying, I don't know what a sub question is. Well, it's taking the big question, boom, and then breaking it into more manageable pieces. It's the best way I can say it. And so in our case study this semester, we're going to look at the university has a large number of students who don't complete their thesis, their capstone course. It's true with all universities. So we're going to structure a primary. That's the problem, right? And that's the reality. So we're going to structure it as a question: why are a large percentage of CMU capstone students, or University of Maryland student, or whatever, unable to complete the capstone project in the allotted 16 weeks? And what actions can CMU take to improve the completion rate? Now you should remember this, because pretty soon you're going to have an assignment to actually come up with these questions that I'm giving you. So how do I break that? That's a big question. It's broad. Why are students? It's a whole bunch. 42% are not able to get through the capstone. 42%. Wow. Well, some actions have been taken in recent years. The number's coming down. It's getting better, but still too big. So, student does all these other 11 classes perfectly fine and stumbles at the end. Why is that? What are we going to do about that? So we need to break that down, because it's just too broad. It's just why. So why? We need to break it down. So what kind of whys? So we sort of structure this as some sub-questions. Maybe it's things at home that's causing students not to complete it. Like home life, getting a divorce, bunch of kids, whatever. Their personal habits, personal behaviors. It's usually what it is. Procrastination, etc. And there's a lot of reasons. And so you say, well, how do personal factors contribute to high incompletion rate? So I've taken the why, and I've sort of cut a sliver off of the why, personal factors. Then I've got another kind of possible set of reasons. I call them work factors. Maybe stuff's going on at work. You're military and you're getting deployed all the time. In 16 weeks, you get deployed 2 times, you're in trouble. You can't you can't focus. You're traveling, you're tired, you're stressed, all that stuff. Is that all? Is that all the possible reasons, personal or work? No, not really. What if we've screwed up at CMU in how we teach the class? So there's another sliver of this why, right? How do course teaching and course design contribute to the high incompletion rate? So that's three threads of whys. It's sort of I've broken why down into personal, work, or course design, right? And always you have to have this fourth question: what else could it be? Because the other 3 slivers might not cover it. You might slip through the cracks if you don't have this fourth question: what else? And then 5, finally, at the end, I'm asking, what actions can we take to solve the problem? I 1, 2, 3 slivers. It could be 4 slivers, or 2 slivers, or 5 slivers. I call them slivers, right? Anyway, so that's how you do this, and you're going to practice that this week when you submit your idea for your research proposal. Decomposing the primary issue. Example: why are so many people dying from brain tumors? Here it is. Why? It could be anything, right? Could be food, could be the environment, could be stress, anything, right? So there's no sub questions there, right? So we need to put some sub questions together. So maybe it's environmental or hereditary or behavioral, and then once we know, what do we do to solve brain tumors? Recognize also that we've got to have that. What else could it be? That next to last question. So also note that all the sub-questions relate back to the primary question. Students not completing capstone, brain tumors, all the sub-questions got a link to the big question. You can't kind of like go off on tangents. Also note that the questions are comprehensive, especially if you have that, what else could it be? This semester this week, I'm going to ask you to submit a document to me, and I'm going to ask you to propose your topic for your research proposal that you're going to do this semester. I need to know the organization you're going to do the work for, where the problem is going to exist, and I need a description, some narrative about the problem, what makes you believe there's a problem. And then I need to have your primary question and your sub-questions. You can see it on this screen. This document will be made available to you on Blackboard, and you need to fill it out by the end of week 2. Get it to me. And so I ask you for your name, contact information, that's your personal email address, because sometimes, I look at it and I can respond online, but then you don't check back for 2 days and the week slips by. Sometimes I like to shoot something straight to you by email and say, look, this won't work for this reason. I need to know your concentration, because your problem should be related to your concentration. You're an HR concentration. It should be an HR kind of problem. It doesn't have to be, but it should be. I also want to know how many credits you completed, because I want to know where you are in the program, early or late. So then I need the topic, just sort of like a statement, the organization, description of the problem. Then I need your primary question and your sub-questions. a little bit more, I also want to know sort of what, I want you to think this through just generally at a high level. How do you think you'll collect data about this problem? How are you going to think you're going to get into it? Is it going to be probably a survey or some face-to-face interviews or focus groups or a record study or, something else? And then 10, confidence that your organization would let you do the study. And 11, anything else you want to say. And then note at the bottom, if you're uncertain about a topic, you can include other ideas below. So, if you want to throw a couple ideas at me, that's okay. So, that's the idea. That's the discussion. You need to pick a topic, and we need to get into it. Okay. So, you need to decompose your research problem into sub-questions. Every sub-question has to relate to the major problem. And I've already shown you a bunch of examples, and this is just one last example. Patients missing appointments at ABC Clinic. I get that study done a lot. And then you see at the bottom the example sub-questions. Do patients miss? Why? Why? All right, I'm going to break it down. Do patients miss appointments because they forgot? Because they can't afford to pay it or stressed? Work comes up, and what else could be causing it, and what actions can the clinic take? So that's the end of the first topic I want to talk about, and it's very important to pick a great research topic this semester. It's going to stay with you, right? It's going to stay with you throughout the semester. Now, here's another topic that's extremely important, and I used to have this as a separate lecture, but what I found? This is shocking to me. A bunch of students would not listen to this lecture. They would see the title like, oh, APA, I already knew APA, and they wouldn't listen to it. And, we're in the world of I need to, if I can't listen to it in 30 seconds, I ain't listening to it. And here we are at 21 minutes in. So I've secretly embedded this topic here because it's so important. Now you think about this. If you have a child and you say to the child, when you wake up in the morning, brush your teeth. And then you notice, you told them, right? And then you look at them and they come right to breakfast and you say, have you brushed your teeth? No. And you're like, go brush your teeth, right? And so you say, make sure you brush your teeth. Next day they wake up and they don't brush their teeth. They come right to breakfast, That's what happens here to me and students, right? Not you personally, right? None of you in this class, but students, right? And so I'm going to go through this and I'm going to tell you, don't do these things. And then I'm going to get papers from you and you're going to have done them. Or I'm going to say, make sure you do these things. And the reverse will be true. You won't have done them. And I'm like, whoa, what am I dealing with here? Why? How can I tell you to do these things and then you just don't do them and stuff? So that's why this lecture is important. In addition to this lecture, on week 2, Blackboard, I'm going to include a checklist, which is a summary of these things. So you can actually print it out. And as you're doing your writing for me over the semester, you can make sure that you complied with these things. So anyway, let me ramble on. Not all of these are APA. Some of these are just things I want you to do to be a great writer, because my job is to make you outstanding in this class and throughout your program. So let's talk about graduate school writing. Writing is a critical graduate skill. Every instructor expects you to be an effective writer. If you find an instructor that gives you an A and you have grammar and typos and formatting problems, that instructor has failed you. And so we're always at Central, we're always beating on instructors. Hold them accountable, hold students accountable, be good writers. So it's a critical graduate skill. When you submit something, it's a reflection on you. It's like how you dress out in the public. When you go out in your slippers with curlers in your hair, if you're, you guys, we wear curlers in your hair. Would you do that? Would you go out, unshaven, messy looking, and people look at you and they draw conclusions about you based on what they see? Well, your writing is like that as well. When you submit something to an instructor that's full of grammatical and spelling errors, we know one of multiple possibilities is occurring. One is you don't care. Two is you did it at the last minute and you didn't take the time to have somebody edit it for you. And so, there's a lot of reasons, and I'm a product of Baltimore City public school system. So I have to say I came out of the school system with still some grammatical gaps. But I corrected them over the years, and I'm a pretty effective writer at this point in my life. I can write with the best of them, but it took a lot of work, and writing is use it or lose it, right? So anyway, submissions to instructors have to be free of grammatical, spelling, typographical errors. I need for you to have your work edited before you submit it. If you wait to the last minute, it's 9:30 on Sunday night, it's due by midnight, have a spouse or a daughter or a son or a grandparent review it for you. Have somebody read it. If you're going to use CMU's Outstanding Writing Center, you got to get it to them by Wednesday so they get it back to you by Friday so you can get it to me by Sunday. If you send it to the Writing Center on Saturday, they're not going to get to it till Monday. When you post it to Blackboard, say, I'm sorry, I didn't have time to get this to the Writing Center, but I have sent it, and I'll work in their comments next week, but here it is. So you got to own up to that. So editing is huge. Okay, now I have 6 quick topics here. General APA requirements, how to do the report title and subheadings, writing considerations and requirements, very important, citing sources, writing in the proper tense, and references. It won't take me long to cover these. Now, the reason I'm covering these and why these are very important is because you need to sort of follow this. Now, my template that you're going to use this semester has a lot of this taken care of for you. A long time ago, when I started teaching at Central in 1994, students were struggling with format and they couldn't focus on content. So I created a template. The template's been much improved over the years. You're going to use it, and all these things are in the template. So the things happen that amaze me. Students don't use the template. Wow, you want to get slammed really quick from me? Don't use the template. Yeah, you got to use a template. Students decide to ignore the template. And in the template, I got all kinds of comments about how it should be done. And you just ignored it. And you're like, whoa, what is this? And the template said blah, blah. Okay, so I'm going to roll through these quick because it's getting late. It's 26 minutes into this lecture. So, general APA. You should know this, but I'm going to review it. Paper size and layout, we're going to use 8.5 by 11. You're going to have a 1-inch right margin and a 1-inch left margin. No 1.5 inches and no 2 inches. We're not making the papers longer by increasing the margins. 1 inch, right and left. Font type, no funky fonts. 12-point Times New Roman. That's it. Spacing, everything in the paper except for the cover page. Everything double spaced. Now, when you get to the surveys in the back and the letters in the back, don't have to be double spaced. But everything in the body of your proposal and final report, double spaced. 2.0, that's not 1.15 or 1.5, it's 2.0. Everything except for the cover page. Cover page is single spaced. I was reviewing papers today. All right, students are double spaced the cover page. Nope, single space. This is the 8th week of this class. How many times have I told them that? Anyway, everything, including references. No blank lines or extra spacing between paragraphs or subsections. There's a way to fix this problem. And in my written comments on my little checklist, I actually tell you in writing how to do it. You kind of got to block everything, and then you got to go into configuration on the Word thing and then set it to 0 before and 0 after. No blank lines. No blank lines anywhere, unless I tell you in the template. So no blank lines or extra spacing between paragraphs, subsections, no blank lines. But everything is 2.0. Justification, everything is left justified except some headings are center. But so there's no center justification. You know how some people like the spread it out so that the right edge is even, the left edge is even? No, left justified, none of that. Page breaks. Chapters and appendices start on a new page. I had 3 papers I reviewed today, had chapters and appendices starting in the middle of the page. Don't do that. Indentation. Every semester, I have to tell people, this paragraph's not indented. This paragraph's indented two times. Every paragraph has to be indented. If you don't indent paragraphs, that's my first indication that you haven't used APA style. Paragraphs aren't indented. So every paragraph's indented. Numbers. It's important. I must have said this 5 times today. Numbers, numerals 0 through 9 are spelled out. I never see a 1 or a 2 or a 3. I see a 0 or the O-N-E or TWO. 0 to 9 are spelled out. Any digit greater than 9 is written as a numeral, not spelled out. Never, ever, ever start a sentence with a numeral of any kind. Ever. Spell it out. If it's the first number, if a number is the first word in the sentence, spell it out. Abbreviations. This is important. I ran into this a lot today and yesterday. First use of a proper noun, organizational name, spelled fully. Then you put the acronym in parens behind it, or a short name. You could call it church, whatever, behind it. From then on, you can never use the full name again. You have to use what's in the parens. Man, I had a lot of that today. After the first use, only abbreviation, short name. Abstracts or executive summaries, only put them in when you're told to do so. And my template will instruct you in that regard. Topic 2, formatting the report title and subheadings. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. The template is completely formatted for you. Don't screw around with it too much. Cover page is the only page that's single-spaced. The report title, it has to be down 2 inches below the top edge of the page. Actually, it's supposed to be 4 inches down. But the title on the cover page doesn't run right up against the top margin. It's spaced down 2 inches. Everything, the title itself of the report is entirely capitalized. That saves you a lot of aggravation as to know which words get capitalized and which don't. Capitalize the entire title. The title should not be more than 12 words, and it should never be structured as a question. Yeah, look, if you got 14 words, okay. But never structure a title of a research paper proposal as a question, ever. No abbreviations in the title. Every word spelled correctly. Stunningly. People get to the very end and submit a report for a grade, a formal thesis with typos in the title. What are you supposed to think as a reader when you see the title has typos? Bull. If it's more than one line, the title, take and center it across 2 lines. Find the proper noun in there, put the cursor in front of the word in the title, press Control Enter, and break it across 2 lines. Okay, a nice and centered 2-line title, still single-spaced. Okay, and then I'm not going to go over this. It's in the template. You can look at it. The level 1 headings, chapter headings, start on a new page, center, bold, upper and lowercase, major words are capitalized. First level subheadings, left aligned, bold, upper and lowercase. We're not using any italics here. Okay, no italics on a line by itself. Then second level subheadings, third level subheadings. The template does this for you. Use the template. Topic 3, the running head. On the page header, okay, that's the running head. That's what it's called. It's referred to as a running head. It's including at the top of every page in the report. The cover page has a different running head format than the rest of the report. Okay, the running header has 2 parts. On the left-hand side, it has a running head. On the right-hand side, it has the page number. Okay, again, this is all done for you in a template. So make sure that the cover page running header says running head, and then report title in capital letters. Okay, and then the remaining pages omit the phrase running head. And the colon, they just have the short title. Okay, now that short title, that report title, is not the full title. It's not all 12 words. It's some abbreviated version of it. It's like study of turnover, 3 words instead of like the full title. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but the template tells you exactly what to do. All right, and this is important. This is the stuff, and you're going to hear me. I will beat up on you this semester. This is like telling your daughter or your son brush your teeth before you come to breakfast, and they don't do it. That's what this is, right? So this is in the checklist that you can print out and keep beside you. No mini paragraphs, no mini subsections, no 1-sentence paragraphs, and no 1-paragraph subsections in your work. If stuff only has, you got a subsection title and then 1 sentence, we're not writing outlines here. We're just not doing it. If you can't write 2 or 3 more sentences about the thought, then merge it with something else. Put it back together. Okay, so nothing really 1-sentence-y, right? We're not writing outlines. Students wait to the last minute to do their work. That's what I get. No paragraphs of doom. I'll use that phrase a lot in my feedback to you. There's a paragraph that goes on forever. This tells me you haven't been in school in a long time, right? Because you start writing and you don't, page and a half later, you still haven't indented, right? I mean, there's two ways I see this, but, other people indent randomly. They just, I think I'll indent now. But anyway, I don't want any paragraphs of doom. I don't want paragraphs more than 5 or 6 sentences long. If you do that, I'm going to say, look, paragraph break here. This is a paragraph of doom. You're killing your readers. They can't digest more than 5 or 6 sentences of content. So try to structure your writing so the paragraphs are somewhat modestly lengthy. No personal pronouns ever. And I corrected 5 people today. I, my, we, our, my study, I will, we will, our organization, nothing ever. No personal pronouns in research, ever. You are supposed to be an objective person. So you are not an I or a my or we or an our. You are the researcher. So we are not going to write this using personal pronouns. Avoid extensive use of bullet lists. Do not like bullet lists. That students do that to sort of a cop-out. You're supposed to be structuring your own thoughts, and when you start putting bullet lists in here, that's a bad thing. The only area I want the sub-questions in Chapter 1, bullet items. It can be numbered or whatever. Run-on sentences happens all the time. 2 sentences separated by a comma. How do you do that? You change the comma to a semicolon, or you put a period down. Happens all the time. Sentence fragments, a bunch of those going on today. And I'll tell you again, this is week 8. I've seen the reports, these drafts that these students are writing. I've seen them 3 times already. And I've told them before, and still, week 8, run-on sentences, etc. So what do I say? Get this to the Writing Center. Get your reports to the Writing Center. Why are you submitting it to me with run-on sentences, sentence fragments, yada, yada, yada? Especially in week 8 this semester. Okay, so for citing sources, this is a big deal. Every fact has to be cited. In the first paragraph of your Chapter 1, I'm expecting citations because you're going to be describing the organization, how long it's been around, how many employees it has. That stuff, those facts have to come from someplace. They can't come from your head. They can't. Otherwise you're making it up. Anyway, so cite everything. Never, ever, ever. Okay, next one. This is hugely important. Ever, ever, never have a citation sitting outside of punctuation marks. We never have a sentence, period, and then a citation. Ever. Under any circumstances, ever. And still today, someone missed one of them that I had told them about before. So never. Leadership is a learned skill, period. Kessler 2000. Never, ever. That Kessler 2000, it's weird, it's floating, it's strange, it's curious. When somebody sees that, they're like, this student, this writer doesn't know what they're doing. So never. Leadership is a learned skill, Kessler 2000. Period. There's the punctuation mark, right? Now here's the second part of this. It's important. Now there's 2 ways to cite. You want to cite a single sentence, like in one paragraph, you're citing 3 different sources, right? So each sentence has to have the citation at the back. But if you have a paragraph where most of the paragraph came from one source, you start the paragraph out by saying Kessler 2000 found that, da-da-da-da. Therefore, because you've done it this way, instead of citing each sentence, we know that most of the paragraph has been cited from that singular source. So you can get away with that. Never ever include titles of the source in your citation, ever. For direct quotes, you have to include a page number as well. So if you're pulling something that's precisely taken from a source, you have to include where the page it came from. Anyway, there's lots of things to cite. How do you cite websites? How do you cite stuff without an author, without dates, and so on? So here's the link. Use this link. Again, it'll be in the guide that you print out. Okay, citing sources. These are examples, right? If you have 2 authors, Smith and Foster, 2009. A student keeps putting a comma after Foster and before 2009. Today I told him, Smith and Foster, no commas, right? 2009. Or if it's the end of a sentence, that's the beginning of a paragraph. If it's the end of the sentence, left paren, Smith and Foster, comma, 2009. So in that first one, no commas. 3 or more authors. You can switch over to Smith et al. You don't have to put every author's name. It gets old. No comma though in that first one. Only a comma in the sentence level citation. Okay, this is an important topic to me. I must have corrected 25 to 30, maybe more cases of this today. It's called using the correct tense. There's a lot of confusion among writers and students about time issues in expository writing. We frequently use the word will. I always say you should never use the word will, almost ever. The word will only indicates something that's going to be done in the future, really done in the future, right? So if I've written a proposal, the proposal examines because it's written. The proposal will examine. The proposal examines. It's crazy, but anyway, in general, the word will should be avoided. Do not state this report will examine if the report's already written. This report examines. Do not say this report will present facts of the case. This report presents the facts of the case. This chapter will discuss. No, the chapter discusses, right? The report is complete when submitted, so no content should be in future, because your report's complete when it's submitted. Very little content should be in future tense. The only exception is when referring to a future activity that has not yet occurred. Next month, data will be collected. And today, in week 8 of this course that you're taking, a lot of students said the survey will include questions, but the survey is already as an appendix. So the survey already includes questions. The survey will include questions. The survey includes questions about, this is huge. You want to be viewed as a credible writer and thinker, take care of that will word. Don't use it. Okay, I'm done here. Structuring and formatting the references is important. In the references section, center the title on a new page, references. It always comes after the last chapter, chapter 5 or chapter 3 or chapter 2. It comes at the end. but not a. Then there's the appendices. Your appendices are always behind references. Organize the references in alphabetical order. Okay, alphabetical order. Adams becomes before Baker. Baker becomes before Miller. So on. Format using the hanging indentation style. I'll show you this in a second. Okay, that means the top line is left justified and all subsequent lines are indented. That's hanging indentation. Double space your references, don't forget. Use the OWL guide to find correct format. And remember that references and bibliography are different. A bibliography includes everything you may have even read about, but references are the things that were cited in the report, and they're different. You can never have things in the references that weren't cited. And so references are a subset of bibliography. For our purposes, you must have references. Bibliography would be optional. And if they're exactly the same, then you would omit the bibliography. This is the hanging indentation style, right? You can see everything's double spaced. See everything's in alphabetical order. You can see that in hanging indentation style, the first line is left justified and all subsequent lines are indented. So anyway, that's the end of what I had to say today. I know we took a little bit of time, but this is very important stuff. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next lecture.